I suppose so.
Welcome, everybody, to the other side of the glass, the Facebook Live series brought to you by us, the Just Add Bourbon podcast. My name is Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
I'm J.D. Dameron.
And I'm Eric Beaudry.
So we've got a great show for you guys tonight. We've got a very, very special guest. We found out earlier that this man is true to the show that he was on. He does not have internet, so he's actually out sitting on a ridge right now on his cell phone, and he'll be coming to us live via Eric's cell phone. But before we get into introducing our guest, JD and I wanted to talk about a couple things real quick. One, wanted to remind everybody about our challenge. It's the Race to 250, as I like to call it. JD's got his YouTube page, Jason Dameron. I've got mine, Small Town Collectibles. And then, of course, the Just Add Bourbon YouTube channel. So the deal is whoever gets to 250 first, me or JD, the loser has to eat a Carolina Reaper live on our show. If JD and I both get to 250 and the Just Add Bourbon podcast page gets to 250, then we're both going to eat a Carolina Reaper live on the show while I'm wearing a Biden-Harris for President t-shirt and while JD is wearing a Trump-Pence t-shirt. So JD is not really concerned so much about the pepper. He's really concerned about the t-shirt he's going to have to wear. He's more afraid that's going to make him throw up than the pepper itself. So, and then JD, you wanted to announce a raffle we've got going. We've talked a lot on the show the last little bit about our community center here locally and how COVID has impacted it, and it had to be shut down for a little while. JD and I are on that board now trying to rescue it and get it back open. And we've been doing some fundraising, and JD's kind of heading something up here. So, JD, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so what I'm doing, I'm doing a gun raffle, actually. I got a Glock 45 that we're going to be raffling off, and we'll do $10 a pop. What's up, buddy? That's Cannon, right?
Gunner.
That's good.
Man, I can't tell on the thing. So we're doing a raffle with the Glock 45. We're going to do it to sell $10 a chance on it. And we're going to try to raise a little money. All the money is going to go toward the reopening of the community center, paying bills, and trying to get us back to good so we can put a plan forward to make some money, keep the community center open for our kids.
So JD will be announcing that soon, telling you where you can go buy your tickets, all that for that raffle. And like I said, hopefully it'll be successful. All the other things that we've done have really been successful. We had a meeting tonight and we've raised quite a bit of money so far in just a very, very short period of time. So definitely on our way. All right. So with all that out of the way, I want to introduce our guest tonight. I had never really watched this show before. I'd heard of this show, but I had never really watched it until I found out that a fellow Kentuckian was on it. And I went in and I binge watched the entire show in about 2 days. Tonight's guest is Keith Syers. He was a contestant on season 7 of Alone that's shown on the History Channel. Keith, man, thank you for coming on with us.
Yeah, no problem.
So as I said, Keith is true to what you saw on the show. If you watch season 7 of Alone, we were trying to get hooked up. He's like, dude, I don't have any internet. And I was like, well, okay, what are we going to do? So we had him call in, and so we're going to give this a whirl. So Keith, if you don't care, man, just tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you were born and raised in Kentucky, and just kind of what you do before the show.
Yeah, man, I was pretty much born and raised about where I'm sitting. To be honest with you, I haven't made it too far. And I've just always kind of been into this lifestyle. Grew up hunting, fishing, trapping, kind of like a bunch of country boys do. And then I just took it to about 6 levels above that. Pretty much at this point in my life, I do everything primitive, and most of it is something that I built or something some of my friends built as far as being in the outdoor world, or, the hunting, fishing, and trapping. We run some classes here, run some classes in a few other states. And had a friend really talk me into doing a YouTube channel, and the rest is kind of history. Literally, they found me on the internet and made it to the show. That's about the long and short of it.
I see what you did there with your little pun. That was good. So, walk me through the steps, like how history actually reach out to you, man. They message you on your board, or how they go about getting a hold of you, because you're obviously not going to be, you're not easy to get a hold of.
I kind of like you. I hadn't watched the show a lot. My dad, he lives down in Alabama, and he had told me about the show the first year it came out. I think over the years I watched bits and pieces of it there that first year, and I actually applied the second year about half-heartedly. And I didn't have any social media at all, which is kind of a big thing. They want to see that you can film some stuff and see that you have done some things. And I had done plenty of things. I just hadn't documented it very well. And my wife, she grew up in Southeast Alaska, and she does pretty much, she does about everything I do. She does a few different things. She's more of an herbalist and a plant person, and has really taught me a lot. They were having a hard time finding women to be on the show, so they actually approached her about being on the show. And they interviewed her. She was telling them about me, so they interviewed me, and then we both got the call to come to boot camp, which has only happened one other time. That was with Kai, who was there till 80 days this year. Her and her husband Dave were the other married couple that had been asked to come up. So it ended up only one of each of the married couples was going to go, and so it ended up being me and Kai that headed north, and they stayed home. But
So there's actually a boot.
It takes about a year and a half altogether, I would say.
So there's actually a boot camp. So once they reach out to you about being on the show, there's actually a boot camp where you go and essentially try out. Is that what you're saying?
Right. You don't, I mean, the way I look at it, you can make a picture look like anything, or a video look like anything for that matter. And they actually take you up there and put you through your paces and make sure you know what you're talking about. There was 22 people. I think they said there were 40,000 applicants last year, and I may be off on that, but I think that was right. They dwindled it down to 22. And then out of the 22, there were 10 of us that actually got to go out in the field. And they'll take you out. I mean, they take you out in the field and be sure you know what you're doing. And that's about all I can say about that. It's not a Girl Scout camp out or a Boy Scout camp out, that's for sure.
Go ahead, Eric.
So Keith, after you were chosen, before you guys were picked up and dropped off in your designated spots, how much time exactly did you spend with the other contestants?
We had spent, about a week and a half together, and then you're in base camp for a pretty good while. I mean, and everybody gets to be good friends. It's not this huge competition like you think it is. The only person you're competing against out there is yourself, Mother Nature. We're all still to this day best of friends, and I'm sure we'll be from here on out. And you get, I've been in some pretty harrowing situations, I guess, in my life. And, I think those kind of bonds, you grow stronger. And I think, these people here, we've got something that only about 70 other people have ever experienced. So, they'll be my friends for life, no doubt.
So, the way I understand the show is you get to take a few items with you, right? 10 items. So, what did you take and why did you take those things?
I'm having a hard time hearing you there.
I said, I know the premise of the show was you're alone, but you get to take a few items with you, like 10 items. And yes. What did you take and why did you take those particular items?
My 10 items. That's going to be hard for me to sit and remember, but I shall give it a shot.
Well, just a few of them, like the main,
Yeah, they have a set list. It's not like you can just, pick willy-nilly any 10 items. I chose a bow, and when I say a bow, you cannot take a compound bow. The most modern thing you're going to be able to take is fiberglass, back, recurved. Right. But my good friend Ryan Gill, shout out to him down in Hunt Primitive, Florida. He built my bow for the show. I shoot stick bow 90% of the time anyway, so that was not a big deal to me. I took 7 river cane arrows. I didn't want to take carbon arrows, any of that mess up there. I took, which the bow and arrows are one item. I took a pot made by Joe Goodacre here in Princeton, Kentucky. He's an AMM brother of mine, makes a lot of good copperware, so I had him make my pot for me. I took a ferro rod, which is like probably the most important thing you can have up there. I took a, what are we up to, 4? I took the 25 fishing hooks and however many things of fishing line you can take, and I should have left those at the house because I had about 4 foot of water all the way around me. I lost 7 hooks in the first 5 days.
Really?
Marvelous fish hooks, by the way. Never fished those. You need to get you some and try them because they'll make you invent curse words. I took snare wire for trapping, and that was definitely a good move to do that again. Took paracord, and then a sleeping bag counts as one, so I had a negative 40-degree sleeping bag, and all the way up to there, about 8.
Yeah.
Oh, my axe. I took a medium weight Fallon axe, which is that kind of axe I usually burn wood here. So it's pretty much the same axe I'm used to having. I did break down a bunch of new and take up there though. And then a Leatherman multi-tool and a knife. And it rounded out my deal there. I had another one of my good friends. I do a lot of blacksmithing, but I wanted something of his, so Jason Smith at Hobo Forge Works made my knife to take up there. Made a nice high visibility orange handle. If I dropped it, maybe I could find it again. And then the Leatherman multi-tool, which is exactly what it says it is. I mean, you can pull fish hooks out of your hand, or sew with it. Just whatever you have to do. It's use the file to sharpen my axe. It was probably the handiest thing I had up there for sure.
Well.
So it sounds like you were pretty much training for this your entire life. But once you found out you were going to be on the show and found out where you were going, kind of how did you prepare for that? Or what did you change up to maybe try to replicate the conditions that you were going into?
Well, you guys are from Kentucky. Kentucky in the summertime, there's nothing you can do to replicate going to Canada in the wintertime other than maybe hang out your deep freeze all summer long. I ate a lot of Blue Bunny ice cream because I'm not really a guy that packs a lot of weight. So if you guys had stock of Blue Bunny last year, you could probably kick some at to me if you made any money. I was eating about a half gallon of ice cream every other day, and then just carb loading, trying to put on weight. And then, man, just read everything I could read on mostly the fauna of the place and the flora a little bit, but I was kind of trying to figure out what animals would be up there. I knew there wasn't going to be a lot to choose from as far as plants, so that wasn't really, it was in my wheelhouse, but I knew if I could nail down, I always try to keep 8 to 10 plants, if I'm going somewhere new, pretty solid in my head and have them down pat. So, yeah, man, I bought tons of books. Would go out, get on the internet, sit and read everything I could think of, just about the North and about that particular area of Canada. Like I said, the plants were not a huge deal because there's not a huge amount of diversity up there, nothing like there is here. But gaining weight and reading books, man, that was my game plan.
So Keith, on your first appearance on the show was really like where they really featured you was episode 3 on day 9. You had shot a squirrel with your bow. How many bows did it actually take you to shoot the squirrel?
That particular squirrel, it took 2. Shot and missed the first time. I had the camera set up pretty well perfect. It was on a GoPro chesty, as well as the main camera. And I wish the whole thing had really been caught, because I hit the tree with an arrow. It bounced back. I caught the arrow because it pretty much killed the velocity after it hit the tree. Knocked the arrow again, shot the squirrel, and then if you watch the show, you saw me push the squirrel left-handed as I walked around the tree. That was probably the craziest catch I've ever pulled off in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the audio, and you could just hear the squirrel dropping through the branches.
Yeah, it was bananas, man.
Yeah, that's what I said. When I saw that, I was like, that's a Kentucky boy right there. Shoot the squirrel, then catch it before it hits the ground. That's a Kentucky boy.
As he was falling, I was putting my hand out. I remember Nikki from last year. She got bit by a squirrel, which, like I said, being from Kentucky, this is the first time I've been bit by a squirrel. And
So
that's the only thing that was going through my head as he was falling. I thought, this is going to be the coolest video ever. And it's going to be even cooler if he bites me. And fortunately, he was out of it. He was no longer with us.
So I've got a question, and it's kind of, you mentioned the camera and setting up the shot. So I've got two questions. One, are you really alone? There's no camera people out there with you, like filming different shots, or is it literally you're filming it yourself?
Yes, sir. You're literally alone. You have, at any one time, I had 3 cameras with me. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. When you go out to film something, you don't want to sit and look at me doing something from one angle. You don't want to see me sitting talking about, for instance, how to tie a fish hook onto a line or whatever. You want to see my hands moving. You want to see me moving. And as important as the survival, I think, skills were, having good camera skills was also a really important part of what they were looking for. And they put you through some pretty intensive training as far as cameras. So they want at least 2 to 3 camera angles for everything you're doing. So it takes quite a bit to set that up. And sometimes they just don't get it from something that was in the spur of the moment, but most of the time they get what they're looking for. And I will say that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me and to us as a couple, because Jennifer went to boot camp and she got to sit in on a couple of camera classes too. And it completely changed our YouTube page after we got back. And there were people comment like, wow, your camera skills has improved. I was like, yes, they have. But
So
you were totally alone. You only get, I would say, about every week, they'll come in, do a med check, swap out camera cards, give you some new batteries, and they're there 15 minutes and they're gone. So yeah, that's all us doing all the filming all the time.
So my follow-up question to that was, when you're out there and you're trying to survive, because really when you're walking through the woods, you've got a camera in one hand or whatever you're doing, so you're almost one-armed while you're out there. Does it really affect is it a pain, I guess is what I'm trying to say? Is it like a pain in the ass that you have to have these camera shots all the time? You're getting ready to try to shoot a squirrel or a ox or something, and then you've got to film it. Is it really aggravating?
Yeah, it is a complete pain in the ass, 110%, because it's not like what I was used to filming here. I film a lot of hunts here, but these are from a stationary spot. And, I've got a cameraman or I have a camera angle. I know where something's going to happen, so I already have that set before I go into it. Whereas there, now on top of what you see as far as camera gear, like I said, we have 3 cameras at any one time. You're also, if you're out away from camp, have a whole pile of safety gear you have to cover. I'd say whatever you have that you're doing, you can always add 40 pounds of gear to that. So yeah, it is a huge hindrance trying to stalk around, because they want everything with this stabilized, super nice, like production grade TV camera, and you have this huge tripod.
So I got a question about, you go through the basic training, the boot camp, and things are ramping up to you're going to go be dropped off in the Arctic. So what is that moment like when you get dropped off and the helicopter leaves and now you're alone? Like, I want you to kind of describe that moment for me. Keith? Dude, that was an awesome question, by the way.
Once I was there, it was
Oh,
pretty comfortable, really. Hello?
go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, I asked, just describe the moment when the helicopter, dropped you off, you're alone, and no more training, no more this is for real. Like, what's that moment like?
It was pretty relaxing, really. Just the whole build up to it was worse than the actual being out there. If food had been available, it really wouldn't have been too bad. I mean, you were basically getting paid to play in the woods, which was a pretty sweet gig. If you looked at it like that, and just the build up going into it, was just such a strain. Once you were there, the only person you had to worry about was you.
So Keith, what was it like to go from a really, really sweet trout you caught to the leeching?
Well, you got to do what you got to do sometime. And obviously, I had a piece of prime real estate. You can see that by the aerial view. And I didn't realize how bad it was until somebody actually sent me a picture of it. It's I can't explain how hungry you are. I mean, I cannot explain it. It gets to the point it just bores up in the middle of your head. I mean, I'm pretty active dude anyway, and I don't set well. So I'm always trying to do something. But that trout, when I finally did manage to catch one, that was like the best tasting thing ever. And you get about 3 days out of that, it's gone. And then you go a week or so without eating. So that rock life was pretty good. But I don't know. Like green casserole, how's that go? You just kind of hold your nose and suck it down and get on through it.
We got a person watching commented, a little hottie named Kim Raines, said, were you required to keep the cameras on you while you slept? Anytime at all, you could turn them off.
No, you did not have to have them on while you slept. There's a couple times I woke up in the night, different things, and tried to do a little bit of filming, but there's a certain amount of time you have to film a day, a certain amount of footage you need to turn in every week. But no, while you're asleep, you definitely do not have to have them on.
And my mom wants to know, this might be a little bit personal, but do you get paid anything or only get if you win?
If you say that again, you're breaking up there.
Oh my God, look at your boy, Brad. I said, we have somebody that commented a question, said, do you only get paid if you win or do you get paid while you're there? Participate.
Yeah, somebody else shoot that to me. I cannot hear it.
Eric asked that question.
Well, say it again, Jason.
Do you get paid to participate on the show or only if you win?
Do you get paid to participate, Keith, or only if you win?
I cannot answer that.
Okay.
Good deal.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And also, was there a day out there in the Arctic that just stood out to you? I know they probably run into each other, but was there one day that stood out besides the day you left, obviously?
Yeah, day 6 stood out to me pretty good, and day 7. I actually saw a moose on day 6, and day 7, I tried to put a slipper around on it and ended up out of bounds. I think that was first or second time I got zapped out of bounds, but I was following a set of moose tracks and there was water still pulling in the moose tracks. He's probably ahead of me by half a mile. And walked out of bounds. And I didn't know he was walking out of bounds. I walked out of bounds behind him, and I get this, your GPS tracked.
Right.
If anything happens to you, that they know where you're at, and they know how you're bound. So basically, I got dog shock back in my yard, and that was kind of a huge letdown. Being that hot behind a big game animal.
Right.
So Keith, when you were out there, was there a skill that was most useful to you that you use every day in your everyday living, kind of living off the land, things like that? Was there a particular skill that when you got out there, you're like, man, I'm glad I know how to do this?
Oh, me. That is a very good question. And to answer it honestly, I don't know. I think fire preparation, I put a lot of thought into that, and a lot of thought into shelter building, and top 3 would have been my shelter building, fire procurement, and fire maintenance. And then kind of go along with the shelter would have been my shelter location. Not that I had a whole lot of choice, but I felt that where I was on that point, as far as a hunting situation, especially big game, that was my best bet, because I could hunt into the wind every day. I didn't have my scent carrying through pretty much my entire landmass, so it was in my best interest to stay out on the end of that island or peninsula. So I would say just a good knowledge of big game hunting. I do a lot of deer, a lot of bear hunting, and I just always think about wind direction. So staying put on that point might have seemed ridiculous to some people, but that was definitely the method behind my madness, was to keep a favorable wind that I could walk into every day, because you kind of smell bad after a few days. And you definitely probably don't smell like anything those animals have smelled before.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is when you're out there, because my wife and I were watching it together, and she was like, I don't think she could do any of it. She's a girly girl for sure. But she said the thing that would kill me is not being able to take a bath. So were you able to find a way to take a bath? I mean, I know some guy found like an old boat or something and heated the water up in it and got it like it was a hot tub. But were you able to wash off at all while you were out there?
I did a few times, and right before I tapped, it was starting to get really, it was down in single digits. So they have, I think it's berries. They have soapine in them. It's kind of a little chemical.
Wait, Eric, you froze?
I could take a bath, kind of.
So on the subject of berries, one of the things that really stood out to me, besides the really killer tattoo that you performed on yourself, was when you dyed your gill net the color of the crowberries. I thought that was brilliant. Both my wife and I, who big fans of the show, remarked on that. So
yeah,
no, go ahead.
That just kind of came to me. Like, as I said, my spot was not really blessed with deep water. It was probably 46 foot, and I would say 85% of my area, and then a cliff that made rolling look like a little hill that went into some deep water on the lakeside. And then in the bay there where I was, I had about 60 yards where it went from 2 to 10 foot to I couldn't see the bottom. So I knew that was probably going to be my only spot to get that gill net in. And I would count with white strings. And I've netted, we got the Asian carp. I've done a little bit of commercial fishing. Definitely did some back in my younger days with hoop nets. And, you always tar the hoop nets. Not that it matters here so much, but up there, the water's crystal clear. So I was just racking my brain. I thought they're going to see this white string during the day. So I thought, man, these crowberries, every time I move, they stain something. So I crushed those crowberries up, boiled them, dyed them, and you saw the result. And, that net stayed out for, probably 9 days. And it's still, I was looking at it the other day. Matter of fact, that somebody on Facebook put that question, and I took a picture and had showed it to them. It still has a really, crystal blue water tint to it. So I never caught a fish with it, so did it not help?
For those of you guys,
He's still there.
we got a lot of people showing up on the Facebook Live. Keith Syers is with us from Malone. He doesn't have internet, so he's called into Eric Beaudry, and Eric's trying to play him across the Bluetooth speaker so we can continue with the interview. It looks like we may be having just a tad of technical difficulty. It sounds like Cubert. Is that the name of the game? Remember that game?
That's my speaker. Hold on. Let me turn it off.
JD, got any good jokes?
I do. You ready for one?
Yeah, lay it on me.
All right. So this is a new one. I'm going to see what you guys think. All right. So I had a girl message me last week. Right. She was like, JD, I want to come over. I want to make a video with you. I was like, all right, girl, come on over. She goes, well, what are
Sorry,
you
Keith, you there, buddy?
What are you the best at? I was like, napping, no doubt.
All right. Keith is back.
I liked it, JD.
My speaker sucks.
Hey, if we're anything, we're professional on the other side of the glass. Look, there's nothing more perfect to me. Nothing.
No, this is perfect.
Then a guy that was on a loan, doesn't have internet, and is sitting out on the ridge somewhere talking to us on a phone. Like, there's nothing more perfect. Like, this could not have been any more perfect for me. And what I thought about Keith when I saw Keith on the show, I was like, dude, I know a bunch of people like Keith. I mean, I know a lot of people like Keith being from Kentucky. And I instantly loved him. Like, I was like, oh, this is my guy. And he was kind of funny. Like, Keith, talk about the decision when you sat down with the camera and you said, there's just a time when you know what you want. You just know what you want. And I want a pizza. And, you were thinking, you're thinking Keith's going to tap, but no, he wants a pizza. So where did that thought come to? Were you just going nuts out there by yourself and thought, well, that'll just be funny?
Yeah, well, that's an easy one, actually. A day or two before that that day was a red check day. And one of the field crew was popped out. They're waiting for me to get weighed and all that stuff. They don't talk to you a whole lot. They kind of keep business as usual. And I look over, and he's eating a handful of blueberries. He just reached down and picked this handful of blueberries. And I was like, are you shitting me? So I hollered at him. I was like, hey, so what are you doing? He's like, well, these blueberries. I said, yeah, there's not very many left either. I said, I'll tell you something. I said, next time you come out here and eat a handful of blueberries, I said, you better have a damn pizza with you. I said, because something tells me you're going to go back and eat tonight. I said, brother, those blueberries, are all I have. I said, well, not those blueberries. I said, because that's where I piss every morning. But the other ones, and that's where the whole pizza gag came up. Just out of that experience right there. And it was mostly, I never figured we'd make it on air to begin with. And it was mostly a jab at the Bill guy there.
My wife actually said he's not really tapping because you couldn't hear the pounding of the inReach mechanism or whatever you guys are giving.
Right. I had no idea how to use that thing, to be honest.
So did you see the footage of when the fly flew into Joel's ear?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I felt for him for sure. I mean, Joel had so many close calls. He did end up going right after me there, but we kind of joked that they kind of portrayed us as the same character, and that we were like right there neck and neck the whole time. The flying the ear, that I don't know what I would have done. That definitely would have drove me nuts.
So Keith, why don't you talk to us about when on day 21 when you caught the squirrel, you know, basically you caught it on day 21, you procured it, you prepared it and everything. And did you eat it on day 21 or did you eat it the next day? Like, when did you start feeling the signs and symptoms of, you know, the bacteria that the squirrel was carrying?
Well, I really don't think the squirrel had much to do with it. I think it was more that my body had kind of kicked into ketosis. I was having some muscle cramp problems
Right.
from about day 19 on, like severe cramps. Tried to get some wood there and couldn't. I had so much lactic acid build up like on my triceps. I could not straighten my arms up. And I hadn't had anything really probably too solid to eat for about 5 days at that point, you know, other than berries and just some roots, what have you. And then the squirrel, you know, it might have had something to do with it, but I really, you know, deep down, I don't feel like I had, because I had eaten some of the squirrel there the day before. I had gone out and pulled my traps because I just needed a break. I knew I wasn't doing real well physically, and I was just going to take a couple of days. I think when I did the tattoo, I did myself to day 25. I thought, dude, just go to 25. I said, hang out and see how you feel. And then, you know, push on from there, make your decision. And the night there, I guess 9/21, morning 22, I had a lot of bad cramps and a lot of bad acid reflux, and I vomited a couple times before, which you guys got to see on lovely national television. And you know, squirrel might have had something to do with it, but I really feel more that it was just my body couldn't handle the lack of nutrients with the workload that I was putting on it. You know, that's why I tell everybody I caught a little flat, you know, and I was like, I didn't lose 32 pounds sitting around making earrings. I was crushing some miles trying to find something to eat, you know, just about every day. You know, just going out, hunting in the wind, scouting, setting more traps, going further, setting more traps. There's just so much that you, as a viewer, do not get to see that takes place.
So I got a question, man. Since you've been back home, like, have you missed being out there alone in those woods? Like, did you miss the Arctic at all?
I couldn't hear you real well. Can you repeat that, please?
I mean, if since you've been home, have you missed like that solitude, being out there in the Arctic, you know, by yourself, just making it on your abilities?
Yeah, I definitely miss it. I think that's what you asked.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I definitely miss it. Matter of fact, I was home about 3 days, which, you know, you're not coming straight home when you get out of there. You're pretty wrecked. A few of us got to go to the hospital. A few of us nearly got to go to the hospital. And it was about, I think I got home, I was gone about 43 days altogether. But, yeah, I hung out here for a minute. Was feeling a little bit better. And my wife could tell I was getting wormy. She's like, why don't you just take off and go to the mountains, go bear hunting? I was like, that's what I wanted to hear, babe. So I shut out for a week. I was home 3 days and left and was gone for a week. Just kind of got my head screwed on a little bit better. And, you know, it's definitely a process coming back. I mean, it's solitude like you've never, ever felt. You get down in some places in your head for sure. I was pretty comfortable with it, though. I like talking to people I like talking to, but mostly I like being alone. So it wasn't a big stretch, but yeah, man, that there was a time up there, and I think Roland nailed it. You know, he used to do that as the sound of silence. And there were migratory birds kind of staging up, you know, to come south. And then one day they just left. When they left, it was the weirdest silence you've ever heard in your life. I mean, it was almost a very deafening silence. That's exactly what it was. It was a deafening silence. You hear your body, you know, doing things. You're like, what in the hell is that noise? And you're like, oh my gosh. You just can't wrap your head around it, which, you know, your senses kind of get twisted a little different too. You're a little more in tune to things, which I think intensifies that, even that much more.
Brad, you got a question?
Well, just when you go that long without human contact, and like you said, I'm sure your mind goes in some different places. So, kind of what do you do to kind of, I don't know, kind of keep yourself in check, before you start making friends with trees and things?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to be in a good place mentally before you can even kind of tackle something like that. I think you have to be comfortable with yourself, and I'm very much that. But you just honestly during the day, you're so busy you don't have time to think about it because you're on to the next meal. How can I get the next meal? What can I do to improve, my condition? My mind's going 10 places at once. So during the day, solitude never really got to me. At night is when it really starts to suck because, you start to doubt yourself, you start to doubt the situation. I think you just have to have a pretty strong mental, what they call, I think a PMA, like a positive mental attitude, just, stay upbeat. And that's what I think, they kind of portray you as a character the way I feel it. And I think they did a good job with that as to how I did hammer it because, I get kicked in the face out there every day. And I'm like, well, I tried to keep it light and upbeat. And that was kind of my whole, I guess, on the, to answer your question, I just kept my mind in a good place. And, every time I got kicked in the shins, I just laugh about it, more or less.
Well, that was a question I had, Keith. Like when you're going out there, like before you go, did you have a game plan in your head? Like, okay, I'm going to get here, I'm going to build my shelter, or I'm going to find where I'm going to put my shelter, I'm going to build my shelter, and then I'm going to go look for food. Like, did you have an actual game plan and an order that you wanted to do things in?
Yeah, you definitely, you've got half a dozen game plans. I always say have all the way down to plan F, somewhere in there. And, you got to keep it fluid for sure. And I think that's in any situation like that. You have a game plan. That game plan is going to go to shit and you get to ground for the most part. A few things that did work out for me was my shelter site. I wish they'd spend a little bit more time on that because I did. I dug down in the sand about 18 inches till I hit stone and I burned all that out. So I was kind of down in a little hole and then built my walls triple thick and I had that burned. So I was sleeping below wind level, which was pretty nice. And I kind of did a modified Dakota fire pit, ran my chimney and a tunnel out about 4 foot away from my shelter there. So part of the plan worked out. Part of the plan were all the rabbits were frolicking around and, I'm shooting 2 a day with a bow and, muskox and moose are wandering through my camp. That part damn sure didn't work out because, squirrels was about all I had. They were kind of few and far between at times.
So you got a plan, and I'm sure, man, your expertise is very highly qualified. So what's one thing that you just could not prepare for, though, no matter what you did, like that caught you unexpected, like you completely you just couldn't do anything about?
Okay. So I can barely hear you, but I think you said what was one day that my plan didn't go.
What was one thing you couldn't prepare for?
The one thing I didn't prepare for, the scarcity game. I did not prepare for that at all. And I think that is definitely just luck of the draw. Some places are good, some places not so good. And I definitely hit on that not so good spot. I just assumed from what I had seen there being around base camp that there was going to be a lot more small game than what there was. At my particular site, I never saw a rabbit track. I never saw a rabbit turd. I never saw a rabbit hair. I never saw a rabbit shadow. Not the whole time I was there. And I covered quite a bit of ground.
So Keith, go ahead.
The little Arctic squirrels, think about a gray squirrel in June from the Springs litter. That's about how big they are. So you want to do what I did, eat about 3 pieces of unsalted beef jerky every day, about the size, about twice the size of a quarter, and a handful of blueberry, or you can eat a pint of blueberries. You eat a pint or a quart. And that's the diet plan that will get you where you need to be. But you got to chop some wood and walk a lot in between that.
So Keith, after you had tapped out and you were picked up by the rescue crew, you had mentioned in the after show about going on a refeeding program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That is one thing they were pretty adamant about, and I definitely give them props for. They have a dietitian on site as well as a medical staff, and your stomach shrunk quite a bit. You haven't had any kind of nutrients like what the typical American diet is used to. So the thing you need to do is try to choke down a double cheeseburger and 3 slices of supreme pizza with a chase all the Diet Coke, because if you do, you're probably going to kill yourself more than likely. It's a whole lot of broth, a whole lot of graduating from broth to raw vegetables, a little bit of unsweet juices, and then they ease you in to being able to eat. And when I say eat, it probably took me till March to get my system dialed back in, like it was. And I still do a lot of short-term fasting, even to this day. A lot of times I won't eat till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just because I know I don't have to. I just kind of push it out there. Honestly, I kind of like it to be, if I was telling the truth.
Yeah, there's always something to be said to be, for kind of being hungry. It kind of drives you a little bit more.
Oh yeah, we definitely, as a culture, are soft and spoiled. No doubt about it. And that grill. I knew that, but that grill home for me.
So Keith, one of the things that, as I watched the show, of course, you kind of develop your favorites, and I became very impressed with, was it Callie and what was the other lady's name? Kylie or Keely?
Yes, sir.
So as I watched those girls were savages, man. I mean, like they were beasts out there. Was there anybody that you met in the beginning, and as you're watching the show, you're like, wow, as you watch the show, you're like, man, these guys are crazy. Was there anybody like that you were just really impressed? Like, you're a fellow survivalist. Was there anybody that you met that you really liked?
Oh yeah, I mean, I like everybody. Like I said, we're all good friends to this day. I talked to Kai via text a little bit earlier, and there's no one person that stands out, honestly. I mean, Amos, Sean, and I are all kind of here close together. Amos is up in Indy. Sean's just down the road in Tennessee, and we get together, hang out on weekends a little bit, run some classes. Joe and Mark are all out west, unfortunately, but like I said before, you just get so intermeshed with these people, and especially after the fact, because we kind of are like each other's own support group. And as far as a standout, I mean, my hat's off to Roland, but you're always 5 minutes away from success or failure out there. Anything can happen. So, yeah, I don't want to sound condescending at all, but it could have been anybody's game. I mean, at any time, up to the time you leave, for sure. And we all kind of even said that before we left. We were sitting there trying to pick one person. Like, we have no idea, because you just can't ever tell what's going to happen.
Good.
So Keith, question about another contestant. So they pulled Kelly after 89 days due to frostbite on one toe. What is your opinion on that? I mean, it upset a lot of viewers, and in my mind, especially my wife's mind, she would have made it the last 11 days. What do you think about that?
This is an opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion on that is, oh man, been a tough call. I mean, a real tough call.
Yeah.
I think Callie could have been 11 days. If I'm shooting straight, absolutely.
Mhm.
Would Callie have lost a toe? Probably so. I've had frostbite, not near like what she had, but I have had frostbite on my right hand, on my pointer finger. And man, it takes a while to get over that. And mine definitely was not black. Mine was the whitish, oozy frostbite. So would she have lasted 11 days, in my opinion? Yeah, Callie would have, because Callie's a beast. Would she have lost a toe and done permanent damage? Yeah, I think she probably would have. So, from a medical standpoint, it was probably the right call.
Yeah.
What would have happened if two people finished? Because really, I kind of thought this girl was going to make it. She had become completely in tune with her surroundings, and like I said, she became one of my favorites, man. She was a beast. She really was. Roland was a beast too, but I believe that she would have made it. What would have happened if they both would have finished the 100 days?
They would have split the money right down the middle.
Yeah.
And the same thing, if 3 people had been there, it just divided. The $1 million would have been divided by how many people were left standing. That was the gist of it. So there was a possibility of winning the same as every year if 2 people were there. And if, say, Kai, Callie, and Roland and all 3 made it, then they all would have won less than what the winner, in any other year would have won. So, past $1 million, it was nothing other than division of the prize money amongst the winners. And I think that's been kind of debated. It's been beat to death from what I've seen on social media, but that is the facts of the matter from a guy that was there.
All right, guys, we got anything else for our man here?
I just appreciate him coming on, taking time to sit down with us, man.
Yeah, Keith, it's been great, man.
It's such a hassle to make it happen, but that's just the way it is down here in the big city.
No, I'm glad we were able to make it work there, Keith. That was
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome. It was so great to talk to you and stuff like that. And
Oh, it was perfect.
I'm behind the scenes a lot, so you were my unicorn, as Jason would say. So it was awesome to have you.
I do have one last question before you. And it's not the Disney question, but
We should ask you the Disney question, though.
I will.
Oh God,
But
really?
if somebody wanted to be on loan, like what's the best way for them to go about doing those things? Like what they have to do to get in touch with Youth History Channel or whatever.
This is a offline or an online question from one of the viewers.
No. It's just my question. Like if somebody was interested in doing some of this stuff like that, like
The best way to do it, you need about, I would say, a minimum of 10 or 15 years of really doing some crazy stuff that sucks under your belt.
right.
And then you need to be really pushing the social media aspect of it and apply, because they want to see, that you have the camera skills. They want to see that you have the hard skills. They want to see you have the soft mental skills as far as being able to handle, situations. And you're going to have to prove that you have been into some pretty hairy situations. And I think it gets harder to get on the show every year, honestly. And I don't want to take anything away from all the contestants in the past, but it seems like every year, the ante goes up a little bit. I can't wait to see next year, to see what gets put out there. I think this year was the longest. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was the longest ever to a first tap out. I think on the second tap out the same way. I think mine was the longest to a third tap out, with the exception of Bret Hart in Patagonia. And then, Kyle was the longest the Canadians ever been out there. I think third longest a woman's ever been out there. Callie was the longest of anybody ever out there, including Fowler, with the exception of Roland. Longest a woman's been out there ever. And of course, Roland was the longest anybody's ever been out there. So where the middle fell, I'd have to do some research, but I think I just told you 100% truth on the rest of it. So, you're looking at 6 or 7 records that were, or 4 or 5 records that were set, and a few more that were right there at it for second. So, like I said, it gets a little more intense every year.
It sounds about right, Keith, because the shortest tap out ever was the guy who said he'd wrestle bears and he tapped out in 4 hours in the first episode. But
that is one thing I'll say about my site. When I got dumped, it looked like a cattle pasture for all the bear scat that was there, and I had high hopes. I thought, right, they put me in a bear hunting hole, and it had been like 2 weeks ago, but the berries had played up.
So, Keith, if you had a chance to go back, say, on a redemption show, would you do it?
I've wrestled with that a lot here lately. I've gone back and forth, but yeah, I think I would do it because I don't have anything to prove to anybody, but I've got something to prove to myself, and I figure, I go back with a little bit of knowledge to what the actual situation is. Hell yeah, I'd do it again tomorrow.
Awesome.
Good deal. Well, Keith, man, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on and sit down with us. For those of you, you can go to the History Channel. I actually watched it on demand from the History Channel. That's season 7. Check Keith out and all the other contestants. If you've never watched it before, you won't be sorry, because I really got into it. I got 3 episodes in and I was hooked. And
I missed Jimmy
ended
Dawson.
up watching it. Yeah, and it was crazy. So, were we going to ask Keith the question, JD?
Let's do it. Let's do it. We might as well, man. Why are we not asking the question? And I want to. We're
might as well.
Mostly, I really don't know. But let me ask Keith, and we'll get there. All right, Keith. Ready? If you're somewhere that has television, and on one channel is The Little Mermaid, and on the other channel is Aladdin, which one you watching?
Man, Little Mermaid has got a chick in it.
Yeah!
Oh, man, whatever, bro. Y'all crazy.
I told you, dude.
Redheads!
Gotta love those redheads, baby.
Who's this guy down here? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
All right, Keith. Cool,
He's a man with some sense.
Eric, whatever, bro.
Eric, what's your choice, Eric? We've never asked you before. Little Mermaid or Aladdin?
You just said redheads, man.
I'm a redhead, man. I'm all about the redheads.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely.
And
All right, guys.
I was Prince Eric.
There you go. That's right. Prince Eric.
Keith, man, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith. All right,
Thanks,
you guys
Keith.
that are watching us, of course, we'll be back on Sunday for our regular show. You can catch that on YouTube. You can download the podcast from iTunes, Spotify, and we are now on Amazon. I don't think I told you guys that, but we're now on the Amazon channel.
I know that was yeah, cool.
Yeah, there's one. It popped up on Podbean the other day, so I signed us up. Of course, you can download the Podbean app and subscribe there as well. But as we always end our show, from myself, from JD, from Brad, from Eric, and tonight, Keith, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it always gets a little bit better. We'll see you guys on Sunday.